We're breaking down the truth behind the Buffalo Bills' 31-21 win over the Dolphins today on Locked On Bills.
You are Locked On Bills, your daily Buffalo Bills podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Bills Mafia? It's Joe Marino, author of the Herd Mentality Substack, co-host of the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast, co-host of the NFL First Read Podcast, and I'm your host of Locked On Bills. Want to thank you for making Locked On Bills your first listen every day, and a big welcome and shout out to our everydayers. You know who you are. Those of you who never miss a single episode, I appreciate y'all being here very, very much. Locked On Bills is a proud part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. This episode is brought to you by Mazda. Like our players, we sweat every detail because when you make every move count, pulling off the unexpected is only the beginning. Stay tuned later for highlights in this week's Moving the Game Forward. Mazda, move and be moved. Well, folks, I've taken the time to study the ALL-22 coaches film from the Bills' Week 3 win over the Dolphins, and I'm excited to break this thing down for you today. We're going to talk about all components of the team, what stood out, where the struggles were, and get to the truth behind what happened on the field. That's where the answers are. You want the truth of what happens in a football game, you got to study the tape. And we'll tell you what I learned here today on this episode. I want to start with the passing offense. You know, Josh Allen in this game goes 22 of 28. That's a completion percentage of 78.6%. 213 passing yards, 3 passing touchdowns, passer rating of 134.1. That's all really good, right? But the big narrative coming out of this game was the low average depth of target, right? Josh Allen's average depth of target in this game was 3.3 yards from the line of scrimmage. That's really low, right? Not a world that Josh Allen typically lives in. And so let's talk about why that was the case. Well, 60% of Josh Allen's dropbacks, Miami played split zone safeties. So 2, 3, 4 players leveraged over top, a roof on the top of the defense. You know what the Dolphins said? We're not giving you any of that stuff down the field. And the Bills wind up having a lot of yards after catch in this game. 79% of Josh Allen's passing yards come after the catch. And when you're going to have that type of roof on the defense, you can't really just push the ball down the field to push the ball down the field. And what I've loved about Josh Allen really since the start of last year, and it's really continued this year, is how he's become masterful at being the exact quarterback the Buffalo Bills need him to be that day. You're talking about a game here against the Dolphins where the game script was neutral. This was a one-score game for all but the last 22 seconds. And it wasn't a tight game or a tighter than expected game because of Josh Allen or how the passing game was executed. It was a tighter than expected game because of third down defense and a missed field goal. And the defense going 3 for 3, allowing touchdowns in the red zone. That messed up your opportunity to blow the door open on this game and build a more favorable game script. It wasn't because of how the passing game executed. The passing game was unbelievably efficient. And when you get into the tape, it tells a very clear story of what was and was not available for Josh Allen on Thursday night. You can't work the ball down the field just to work the ball down the field. That's Ken Dorsey stuff. You got to do the smart, right thing with the football, and Josh Allen did that over and over and over again. They called some shot plays. It wasn't like they said, we don't want to work the ball down the field. They weren't open. And those safeties played with depth. They played deep. They stayed leverage over the top. If it wasn't 2 over top, they're playing cover 3, they're playing cover 4. There's a roof on that defense on 60% of those dropbacks. And so, yeah, we want explosive plays down the field, and we want Josh Allen to do the highlight throws, vertically down the field. But more than that, we should want him to do the smart right thing with the football, and he did. And he executed an unbelievably efficient passing game that was exactly what was required on Thursday night. So, yeah, it's an unusual game where it's a 3.3 average depth of target. I promise you, Josh Allen's not going to live in that world. But for Thursday night against Miami, that's what needed to be done. I loved the play action usage in this game. 32 dropbacks for Josh Allen, 10 play action pass calls. That's 31%. That's back-to-back games for this passing offense where the play action rate was over 30%. I love that. That's the magic number for me. I want 30% play action. I think it was 36% against the Jets, 31% against the Dolphins. Very effective. Josh Allen with play action against the Dolphins, 8 of 10, 78 yards, 2 of his passing touchdowns. So I like how that has been incorporated the last couple of weeks, and that encourages me a ton. So a highly efficient game for Josh Allen, did what was required, took what the defense gave him. And, when you can take control of a game script, that's going to open up a little bit more because now, all right, you have this really dynamic two-dimensional threat and, you're ahead, and that's going to invite the defense to be a little more aggressive and load up for the run, and then that's going to open up your opportunities to work the ball down the field. The Bills never got to that point. Let's talk about the rushing offense. Really good day running the football, which, hey, if you're going to play 2 high safeties and not load up in the box and present light boxes, and it's going to be a good day running the football. It's exactly what it was for the Bills. 27 rushes in the game, 157 yards. It's over 5.8 yards per carry. The zone rushing offense was phenomenal. 17 of those 27 runs were zone, and the Bills averaged 6 yards per carry on zone runs. James Cook was terrific. Maybe one of the best games of his career. 19 carries for James, 8 missed tackles forced. A lot of yards after contact. You can look at different data sources and see anywhere from 3.75 to 5 yards after contact per attempt. Those 8 missed tackles forced, according to Pro Football Focus, tied a career high for James Cook for missed tackles forced in a game. And the game that he tied was the Dallas game in 2023, where he also forced 8 missed tackles, but that was on 25 carries. This is 6 less carries with the same amount of missed tackles forced. The cutback runs for James Cook, it's special. James is maybe the best cutback runner I've ever seen. And it's so unique how the Bills bake in those opportunities for James on these runs, give him a lot of liberty to press the line of scrimmage and navigate how he wants to navigate. And he makes really good decisions, and he's really in tune with this scheme. He reads the leverage really well. Obviously, he's laterally quick, which enables him to get to adjacent gaps really, really rapidly. And he's got that stop-start ability to really take off and angle away from defenders. I mean, he's an unbelievable cutback runner. And the Bills just continue to build this scheme around that strength of James, and you see it just feels like it's just getting better and better. And the way that the Bills are incorporating these tight ends in the blocking surface is really cool. Obviously, Jackson Hawes has been a game changer for that. And, the way that he's able to widen lanes and get out in space, I mean, it's been a big part of this overall formula. And I thought this was probably the best one of the best games I've seen from the Bills guards, David Edwards and Osiris Torrance in particular in the run game. And you saw Miami, a team sort of like the Bills, where they're playing a couple of young defensive tackles a lot. The Bills are playing Sanders and Walker a bunch, and Logue as well. And Miami's playing Kenneth Grant and Jordan Phillips a ton. And I think those guys all these players, all 4 of these players that we're talking about, both teams have really bright futures. but you can tell the way that they're feeling the run is they're just not there yet from a processing and response perspective, where those young defensive tackles, they just have challenges with fitting the run and not feeling down blocks and not getting washed out of their space. And I thought you saw that happen for Miami. We'll talk about it with the Bills here later on, but I think you give a big hat tip to David Edwards and Osiris Torrance for how they created displacement and washed bodies out of the way to open up a lot of space in the run game. So incredibly efficient day, throwing the football, really dominant day running the ball. We'll tie a ribbon on the offensive discussion here. On the other side of it, we'll talk snap counts and some of the overall metrics. So, folks, be sure to stick with me. This episode is brought to you by Prize Picks, the daily fantasy app where making the right call can actually pay off. You and I make decisions every day, but on Prize Picks, being right means cashing in. With football back, Prize Picks is the simplest and fastest way to get in on the action. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player projections, and you can turn your takes into real prizes all in less than 60 seconds. I've been playing Prize Picks lately, and it's such a fun way to stay locked in for the season. I love checking projections like Josh Allen for more or less than 270 passing yards, or what the more or less is on Saquon Barkley rushing touchdowns. So download the Prize Picks app today. Use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNFL for $50 in lineups after you play your first $5. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. Welcome back, folks. Good day for the offense. 31 points. You go 6 of 11 on third downs, 360 total yards, over 6 yards per play, and every drive ended in a kick. It's winning football. Absolutely winning football. The Bills played 60 snaps of offense against the Dolphins. We'll do the snap counts now. Josh Allen on the field for all 60 of those snaps. At running back, James Cook, 40 out of 60 snaps. So you're seeing quite the uptick in volume of snaps that James Cook is playing. Right now, he's on pace for over 350 touches. His career high is 281. So I'm curious to see how that levels off or doesn't level off. I think part of it's you're just not getting much from Ray Davis right now. He hasn't looked very comfortable with his touches this year. He only played 4 snaps, 4 out of 60 snaps against Miami. Ty Johnson, 15 out of 60 snaps. You saw Reggie Gilliam for 9. At tight end, Dalton Kincaid, 33. Dawson Knox, 32. Jackson Hawes, 26. These guys are on the field a ton. Really cool stuff that the Bills are doing with 2 and 3 tight end sets. And sometimes, a couple of tight ends, even 3 tight ends and a fullback. The Bills are playing 2 backs, 2 tight ends. I mean, the personnel variety is just really, really diverse with this football team. Alec Anderson, 2 snaps as a jumbo tight end. At wide receiver, Keon Coleman, 45 out of 60 snaps. Khalil Shakir, 42. Josh Palmer, 26. Elijah Moore, 14. Tyrell Shavers, 12. And then your offensive line, the starting 5, Dawkins, Edwards, McGovern, Torrance, Brown, all 5 played all 60 snaps. Let's shift our attention to the defense, where there's some disappointment to get into. We'll start with the pass defense, where, the Bills didn't give up much passing production, but it was situationally poor. Tua goes 22 of 34 for 146 yards, which I think you can just about always live with that. 4.29 yards per attempt. But it was the situational moments where you needed an incompletion or you needed a sack, and you really couldn't get it. And at its core, your pass rush and your pass coverage was not synced up well enough in this game. And what really stands out to me about this is Tua held onto the ball for 2.74 seconds on average per attempt. That is really, really high for Tua. Tua's career average in terms of time to throw is 2.43 seconds. He was at 2.74. That's the longest time to throw that Tua's had in a game since week 14 in 2023 when it was also 2.74. He had 3 games in 2022 where he was a little above that. So you're talking 3 games since his rookie season that Tua has been at 2.74 average time to throw or longer. And so you got Tua to do the thing you wanted him to do, which is hold the ball. The problem is you just couldn't get enough pressure. And it's hard to hold up in coverage against those athletes, right? You didn't sack him one time. You hit him. You had one quarterback hit in the game on, 34 dropbacks. And it's just a really bad combination where you have really speedy receivers for Miami and Hill and Waddle that are athletic mismatches for everybody. And so asking Benford and Trey White to stay in phase for that long with no pressure, it's not going to work. And you even saw the corners do a good job of leveraging to force throws outside the numbers where, you want to stress the arm talent of Tua. And yeah, he loaded up the pea shooter and hit some throws that were outside the numbers because your rush isn't there and he's got clean platforms. And it's hard to stay in phase with those guys. It's like chasing rabbits with how quick and explosive they are. He's had a bad combination. You needed more out of this pass rush, especially against all the backups they were playing with this offensive line. The backup right guard's in there. The backup right tackle's in there. The rookie left guard that can't block anyone's in there. And you couldn't affect these guys. So just a bad overall synchronization of your rushing coverage against a quarterback that thrives on getting the ball out quick, and he didn't get the ball out quick. Frustrating. Third downs are a mess, as you know. I went through on the ALL-22 review clips that I sent out to our Substack and our subtext community. Sent those out on Friday afternoon. I showed a lot of these third downs, and we told the story of what happened, and it was something different all the time. Tua breaks contain on a corner blitz by Trey White and is able to extend the play and find someone down the field. Don't get enough pass rush. You get beat in coverage. You're asking Trey White to be man on man with Jalen Waddle and stay in phase, and he can't do it. It was all kinds of stuff. You overload to one side with 4 rushers and they can't get home and someone's wide open. It's just like sometimes play calling, sometimes pass rush, sometimes coverage, sometimes a missed tackle. Got a lot of issues. But one thing I will say was when the Bills got a couple of stops, it didn't happen often. If there was a common denominator in this game, it was, I thought the Bills won by alignment a few times by presenting the illusion of pressure and kind of putting a bunch of bodies on the line of scrimmage. And then, at the snap, you some go and some, drop into coverage. And so this illusion of pressure that turned into simulated pressures where you rush 4, but it's not, the offense doesn't know which 4 it's going to be. That really affected Tua, where you saw the drop snap. The drop snap happens because he's looking at all these bodies at the line of scrimmage and he's concerned of who's going to come and who's going to drop, takes his eyes off the ball and he drops a snap. You had another instance later in the game where you got a third down incompletion, which feels like you found gold, right? So rare. And that put him in a situation where he was later to get his eyes on the defense because he's looking at what's happening in front of him. So I think he gets Tua in particular, at a minimum, give him the illusion of pressure on some of these third downs to take him out of rhythm and get his eyes in spots that they shouldn't be. All right, we'll talk about the rush defense, defensive snap counts, studs and duds here on the other side of it. So, folks, be sure to stick with me. This episode is brought to you by Mazda's Moving the Game Forward. For those who believe it's not just about playing the game, it's about redefining it. There are moments that do more than put points on the board. They move crowds, move culture, and keep moving the game forward. This week's moment that moved the game forward was, of course, Terrell Bernard's game-sealing interception of Tua Tagovailoa. 3 minutes and 6 seconds left in the game. The Dolphins are driving, getting ready to, it looks like they're going to tie up this game, maybe go for 2 and take the lead. Terrell Bernard breaks on a Tua throw, intercepts it, gives Josh Allen the ball back. They get a field goal, go up by 10 with 22 seconds. That was huge. It moved the game forward. And when you follow what moves you, the unexpected is only the beginning. And just like there's more to every highlight, there's more to a Mazda vehicle. Mazda, move and be moved. The NFL season is here, folks. FanDuel is making sure that you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Check this out right now. New customers can bet just $5. And if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel because it fits however I want to bet, whether that's spreads, over-unders, player props, building those same-game parlays, or even jumping into the live betting as the action unfolds. Just makes every game more exciting, whether you're watching your team or just keeping an eye on your fantasy lineup. It's quick, and it's the best way to add a little more energy to Sundays. I'm in on that Rams money line this week to go into Philly and win the game, and so that'll be making that game at 1 o'clock even more exciting for me to watch. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. Folks, I mentioned that I sent out an ALL-22 film file to our Substack and our subtext community. I'd love for you to be part of it. If you'd like to check that out, go to thejoemarino.com. You can type that right into your browser or go to the show notes, thejoemarino.com. You can find out more about our Substack, our subtext, our Discord community. We've got almost 2,000 people in there talking Bills, just building community around this podcast. And it's been so cool to connect and interact. And I do a lot of exclusive things for our Discord community. We do a Wednesday night hangout, or last week we did some film breakdown with Jerry Ostrowski. We plan on doing that again this week. And so don't miss out. Be part of it. Join either the subtext or Substack. That'll get you into our Discord. More details at thejoemarino.com. All right, rush defense for the Bills. Not a good story to tell here. The Dolphins run the ball 25 times for 130 yards. That's 5.2 yards per carry. 69% of Miami's rushing yards came after contact. Yikes. The Bills missed 12 tackles in this game. 12. And missed tackles really haven't been an issue so far this year. They only missed 1 last week against the Jets. They missed 6 in week 1 against the Ravens. So 7 in the first 2 games combined, 12 against Miami. You wonder how much of that is Thursday Night Football. I think a lot of it has to do with how bad the defensive tackles were. And they were a mess. They were not in their run fits. And so, I often think about missed tackles as angles, right? What type of angles you can take to the football. And when your run fits are goofy, it's hard to take good angles of the football. And I thought these defensive tackles were a mess. And Miami, they have good run scheme. They create good angles for their blockers. But these defensive tackles just had no feel. They're getting washed. Wiped out of their gaps with these down blocks, right? So a down block is someone from your left or right coming down and trying to create some horizontal displacement. They had no feel for these at all. Just getting wiped out. You're watching plays where defensive tackles are 5 yards away from their gap. Not in the run fits. They got reached as well. They got pinned inside. And they just weren't where they were supposed to be. They were just not gap sound. And I think they were all guilty. I think the most guilty ones were TJ Sanders and Zion Logue, for sure. But Deion Walker wasn't immune to it. Daquan Jones wasn't immune to it. Now, the good thing about Walker and Jones is they had redeeming plays. Obviously, Walker with a huge pass rush play that helped with the Terrell Bernard interception, but he also had a couple of good run plays where he actually freelanced a little bit and found the football and made some plays. But Deion Walker wound up playing the fewest snaps of any defensive tackle in this game because he started the game, and on that first series, he was not in his gap on multiple plays. And Sean even said in his press conference on Monday, he's like, yeah, he started the game rough. And, he talked about how he turned it on later, but I mean, I feel like they took away playing time. He was a starter and played the least amount of snaps of any defensive tackle because he wasn't where he was supposed to be on that initial drive on multiple plays that led to big runs, the touchdown and a big run by Ollie Gordon just before the touchdown. Not picking on Deion Walker. It's just the reality of what the tape says. It's what Sean McDermott said, and Deion Walker said it as well in his post game. He was talking about, he was asked about the pass rush that helped, tip the ball and get it into Terrell Bernard's hands. He's like, yeah, I needed to make up for my mistakes earlier. And he talked about how Bobby Babich has been getting on him about the right technique for how they want to play the run in Buffalo. So it's a work in progress. I'm very encouraged with where Deion Walker's headed. And he made some big plays in this game. And I'm giving him a lot of credit for that. But he freelanced and wasn't gap sound with consistency as well. Again, Sanders was the biggest offender. Logue was an offender. Walker was an offender a few times. He didn't play as many snaps, so he didn't have as much opportunity. And Daquan Jones as well. Now, Daquan Jones was the most sound, and his pass rush was phenomenal in this game. But the run defense was really, really up and down, and you had some real lowlights with being gap sound with your defensive tackles in particular, which muddies up everything for the ends, for the second level, for the safeties. Those guys were a mess. So let's talk defensive snap counts. The Bills played 61 snaps of defense. When it comes to the defensive end position, Joey Bosa on the field for 53 of 61 snaps. That is not a world we want to live in. I'm sure part of it is, needing a big play on defense, and he's, a guy that can get that for you. Part of that's, you've got a mini bye after the game. But we don't want Joey Bosa playing 53 out of 61 snaps of defense, right? We'd like that to be probably closer to 40. Greg Rousseau played 40 of 61 snaps. Epinesa 21. Javon Solomon 9. I think Michael Hoyt's going to be a big part of helping this group. I'm interested in seeing Landon Jackson. I don't think Javon Solomon has told us anything about how he can be a positive contributor to this defense. Sean McDermott said on Monday that Landon Jackson was close to getting a jersey this week. I hope that he does for the next several games, because you gave Solomon 3 games. Go ahead and give Jackson 3 games, and then allow that to inform your decisions about what the rotation looks like when Michael Hoyt gets back in a couple weeks. You'll have 6-game suspension, give 3 to Solomon, 3 to Jackson, and let's see if Jackson can find himself a little bit, because Solomon just hasn't helped you at all. A lot of commentary on Greg Rousseau. You're looking for him to make a play, of course, right? He's a $20 million a year defensive end, and you're not getting pass rush, and your run defense has been shaky. Yeah, you're looking for that guy to make some plays. I think he's pressing a little. I think he's chasing it a little, and he just needs to play his game. And if he does, he'll be fine. He'll be fine. But obviously, yes, I think it is fair to want more from Rousseau. McDermott confirmed that in his presser. But I think he just has to play his game as opposed to trying to seek it out and chase it a little bit. Defensive tackle, Daquan Jones, 42 of 61 snaps. TJ Sanders, 36 of 61. Zion Logue, 25 of 61. Deion Walker, 19 of 61. Big flash moments for Deion Walker, which you love, and you build on that, and it's exciting to see where it goes. Linebacker, Terrell Bernard, 61 of 61. Boy, what a game he had. What a game he had. You felt the interception, but he had a big tackle for loss, had a big pass breakup on a target for Tyreek Hill, had some good run fills, played through a messy defensive tackle situation. It's one of my favorite games out of Terrell Bernard. Dorian Williams, 46 of 61. Shaq Thompson, 21 of 61. I thought Shaq Thompson did some really good things out there. Flashed, obviously, the big tackle he made on the Devon Achane escort screen. Had some other good run fills. The Bills are going to play 3 linebackers this year. So if you've been one of those mad about not playing 3 linebackers, they are. It's 3 weeks in a row where they're doing it quite a bit. And even with Milano out, right, they're still willing to go to their 4th linebacker and get him on the field to make sure that they maintain this 3 linebacker stuff. So it's here. And I think Shaq Thompson is a player that can help this team. And I every time he's been on the field, I've had a lot of good things to say about him during training camp. And you saw that show up in this game. At corner, Trey White and Christian Benford, 61 snaps each. Taron Johnson, 40. And then at safety, Bishop and Rapp, your starters, played all 61 snaps. Cam Lewis, 14 snaps. Studs and duds. Studs, Josh Allen, James Cook, David Edwards, Osiris Torrance, Jackson Hawes. I think those guys were they all played just really, really clean games, and obviously some dynamic stuff from Allen and Cook. And I thought Edwards, Torrance, and Hawes were just instrumental in how this run scheme was able to work. Dalton Kincaid is a stud, leader in catches and yards, some huge dynamic plays. And Khalil Shakir is also going to be a stud for me because, this type of game with how the Miami Dolphins play defense, you needed some yards after catch plays. And Kincaid and Shakir delivered huge yards after catch plays that led to the win. And then defensively, we'll go with one stud, and his name is obviously Terrell Bernard. Duds, Zion Logue, TJ Sanders. You needed more pass rush out of Sanders. He played all the second most snaps of any defensive tackle, 36 out of 61 snaps, right? I mean, you're talking about more than half, and you're going up against backup guards and another rookie, and you're not making any impact. Yeah, you're a dud for that. And Zion Logue is the guy that's supposed to be able to step in there and be sound against the run. He got washed out left and right. And then I'm also going to put Matt Prater down as a dud. I don't take putting someone down as a dud lightly, but I thought he had two big blunders in this game. Obviously, a 39-yard miss where he completely yanked it, cost the Bills points, and I thought that was instrumental in that game script staying tighter than it needed to. And then the opening kick, obviously the Bills give up the long return. They set up Miami with a short field that eventually ends in a touchdown, and they wind up taking half the first quarter on that opening drive. And Matt Prater kicks the ball right down the middle. That needed to be an angled kick, and you could tell based on the way that the Bills covered it and the way Dorian Strong goes inside. It's supposed to be angled to the left side of where the kicking formation to the left. He put it down the middle, and that's disaster stuff. You can't do it. You can't put that ball down the middle when you're setting up an opportunity to kind of pin it to the left, and you want that, right? You want to leverage the sideline and funnel it, and he put it down the middle, and that really ruined the Bills' opportunity to cover that kick. So I thought those two big blunders from Matt Prater that led to points, right? It leads to an opening drive touchdown, or really it's short field that helps that opening drive touchdown. And then he, literally couldn't make a 39-yard field goal, and didn't put it in the right zip code. He kicked that thing to Grand Island, and he needed to kick it to Orchard Park, right? So I put him down as a dud. I'm overall very happy with Matt Prater, right? Like, trust me, I don't think Tyler Bass would have made all the kicks that Matt Prater has. Like, trust me on this. But I thought those were two pretty big moments in the game that was tighter than it was supposed to be. And I thought that was a major contributing factor that felt very directly correlated. All right, so there you have it. Bills 3-0. Don't forget it. They just beat a division rival by 10. They just beat another one by 20. Be happy. His team's off to a good start. There's things to clean up, but I'm not concerned that everything's not perfect in week 3, right? Like, we've been through this before, folks. It's a marathon, not a sprint. You want to peak, right? You want to get better incrementally. There's a lot of good opportunities for some of the defensive reinforcements that can come in and help this team, and how this offense can evolve as well. So really encouraging start for this Buffalo Bills team. Excited to talk more about it with you next week. We'll do herd mentality early. I'll have a kind of a big picture conversation with you as well. And then we'll start getting ready for the New Orleans Saints in week 4. So folks, don't miss anything. Make sure that you're subscribed. Would love it if you took a second to rate, review, and share the podcast. Have a great rest of your day. Go Bills. Look forward to catching up with you again real soon.